Procrastination, it's that monster that lives in all of our heads, right? It keeps us from hitting our goals. But what if I told you there's a way to beat it? Not with some complex productivity system, but with a simple psychological trick that takes just 120 seconds. So let's dive into the 2-minute rule. It's an idea so simple, it might just change everything for you. You know that feeling, right? You've got this big, important thing you need to do, a new habit you really want to start, and you just can't. It feels like you're trying to push a giant boulder uphill. You're just stuck. And honestly, the longer you wait, the heavier that boulder feels. It actually comes down to a basic law of physics, inertia. You probably remember this from school, Newton's first law of motion. An object at rest tends to stay at rest. Well, here's the thing. That doesn't just apply to objects, it applies to us. When we're on the couch, we tend to stay on the couch. Getting started means we literally have to fight our own inertia. And that right there is the absolute heart of the procrastination problem. It's usually not about the work itself, it's about the friction of taking that very first step. We build the task up in our heads until it seems massive, totally impossible. I mean, think about it. The hardest part of a run isn't the run. It's putting on your shoes and getting out the door. This tells us we've been looking at this whole thing completely backward. We wait around to feel motivated, right? We're hoping for that perfect lightning bolt of inspiration to strike us. But that is a losing game. The real secret isn't about finding more motivation. It's about lowering the bar to entry so low that starting feels, well, effortless. And that brings us to the solution. It's called the 2-minute rule. And its real power is in its beautiful, almost ridiculous simplicity. This isn't some crazy life hack. It's just about understanding and mastering the physics of your own momentum. Yep. That's it. 2 minutes, 120 seconds. That is the entire commitment. It's so small, so completely non-threatening that your brain doesn't even have time to come up with a good excuse to say no. So here's the rule. Plain and simple. Whatever your goal is, whatever habit you're trying to build, you have to shrink it down until the very first step takes less than 2 minutes. The point here isn't to finish the task. The point is just to start. Now, I know what you might be thinking. 2 minutes? Really? How can that possibly work? Well, it might sound way too simple, but it is totally grounded in some fascinating psychology. Let's look at why this tiny little trick is so good at rewiring our brains. Okay, check this out, because this slide completely flips our whole idea of motivation on its head. We all tend to believe what's on the left. You need to get motivated, then you can take action. But the reality, what science shows us, is the complete opposite. Action creates motivation. That tiny little spark of doing something is what actually gets the engine going. Let's break that down a bit. First, it just crushes what's called activation energy, that initial effort you need to get going. Then, by starting, you create instant momentum. You get a quick little win, this little feeling of success, which builds up your belief that you can actually do things. And maybe most importantly, it makes the big, scary full task feel way less intimidating. This quote just nails it perfectly. You're basically designing a starting ritual for yourself that is so ridiculously easy, so free of any resistance, that your brain doesn't even put up a fight. It becomes easier to just do the thing than to argue with yourself about not doing it. All right, so the theory makes a ton of sense, but how does this actually work in real life? Let's get practical and build a little playbook. How can you take your biggest goals and shrink them down into a 2-minute action you can literally start today? Okay, let's take a common one, reading more. The goal of reading 30 books can feel huge. It's overwhelming. But what about reading 1 page? Come on, anyone can do that, right? It takes less than 2 minutes. And here's the magic. Once you've read 1 page, you often just feel like reading another. You've broken the inertia. Or how about the classic goal, exercise more? Forget about the full workout. Your 2-minute start is just to put on your workout clothes. That's it. See, once you're dressed for the part, heading out the door or starting the routine feels like the logical next step. You're just mastering the art of showing up. And yeah, this even works for those enormous, terrifying creative projects. Don't think about writing a novel. That's enough to paralyze anyone. Your 2-minute start is just this. Open the document and write 1 single sentence. You're not trying to be a genius, you're just starting the engine. So it all boils down to the super simple, repeatable process. Step 1, figure out what you want. Step 2, shrink it down to something almost laughably small. And step 3, the most important part of all,
Just begin. Don't overthink it, just go. Now, this is where the rule gets really powerful, because it's not actually about the 2 minutes. It's about what those 2 minutes build over time. It's about, believe it or not, forging a completely new identity for yourself.
This right here is the most profound part of this whole idea. Every single action you take is like a vote for the type of person you want to become. Every time you put on your running shoes, even if you don't run, you're casting a vote that says, I am a runner. Every single sentence you write is a vote for, I am a writer. The actions are tiny, but those votes, they really add up. Look, a single 2-minute action might seem totally insignificant, like that tiny sliver on the chart. But the real magic happens with consistency. All those tiny, easy starts, when you repeat them day after day, they compound into something absolutely massive. They are the foundation of all great things.
So, the biggest takeaway is this. Stop waiting for motivation to strike. Start creating it. The person you want to be in the future isn't built in these giant, heroic leaps. They're built in tiny, 2-minute increments. So the only real question left is, what's one small step you can take right now to cast the first vote for the person you want to become?